How you keeping, Shazina? You all right, mate? How you doing?
I
It doesn't
am.
matter how you're doing because there are very many multitudinous F1-centric thread at which we need to pull. Let me ask you a question quickly, mate, before we kick into our driver in inverted commas pairings.
Oh yeah, the
And by
pairings, love them.
pairings,
I love pairings.
by pairings, of course, I mean ratings, but it's you know what I mean. I'm going to take that categorization to the bank now. Can I ask you something about Lando and Norris?
Go on.
Deserving champion or nah?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a deserving champion, of course. He got the points on the board, didn't he? Ultimately, and he who scores the most points is a deserving champion. How can it be any other way, Cameron?
I thought the deserving champion was the best driver on the grid.
How has it ever been that way? It never has been.
True also.
Just to put meat on the bones on that one, like if we're really being pernickety about this, Robert Kubica should at least be a one-time world champion, and that championship should be 2008. It wasn't him, though, was it?
True, someone else. I wonder whatever happened to that guy who won in '08. Never to be seen again. It's an interesting this one, Shez. I'm begrudging in my praise of Lando because I feel like although it's a triumphant story, the fact that he's overcome his multitudinous mental foibles. It's me, Shez. I feel like I'm bringing myself to the truth pulpit. I like my champions to look and feel and speak a certain way. Grizzled F1 vets a la Schumacher and Lewis and Max and Ayrton, and Lando looks and feels a little bit different. I feel like Mama Cameron when she picks up her phone and looks at TikTok and just doesn't even what is going on. That's the analogy that I use when I look at Lando Norris. He just looks like an F1 peddler from a different planet. But again, maybe the critique needs to be pointed at me, chap. Maybe
No, I don't. No, I don't think that's true. Look, I don't think he's been a very convincing champion. I think there was definitely at least one more driver that was in with a shot of a title that was far more convincing than he. But I don't think it's because of how he talks or how he sounds, or even any of the mental health stuff that he's brought up and made such a headline. It's none of that. I'm happy for him to do all of that. In fact, I quite like this idea that someone that is, in inverted commas, nice has won a championship. It's not that. It's the performance that he left on the table.
Oh,
And that's the problem.
Are the two mutually exclusive, sir? Does one surely not beget the other? Because a fire-breathing dragon like Michael or an Ayrton or a Sir Lewis or a Maximilian Verstappen, they don't leave excessive time on the table, and that links in very nicely with a view not to bury the lead, Shez. With my opening gambit, I say to you, does that look and feel like a deserving champion, sir, if indeed you leave so much time on the table?
No, the performance wasn't good enough, and well, I mean, clearly, actually, that's not true. It was good enough because he won a championship out of it, but a lot of it, you know, there was a huge amount of car tax to be paid for this championship. In the words of one M. Verstappen, Esquire, he would have won that championship in the summer in that car, and it's difficult to argue with that. Everyone's journey is slightly different, but you have to kind of think that if he hadn't been done by his teammate in the first 2/3 of the season, and I struggle to say that it was Lando out driving Oscar in the final third that put him ahead. I think Oscar did a lot of that on his own, which also kind of rules Oscar out the running for being a, you know, in your words, deserving, I would say, convincing champion. Then yeah, he had there was a lot of performance left on the table that he didn't pick up, and his car did a lot of the heavy lifting for him. That's fine. That a lot of champions have won that way. Damon Hill 96, Jenson Button 2009. You know, it's not as if this is new in Formula One. What I think is going to be more interesting now is because I think McLaren will probably still have a car capable of winning championships next year. I think the competition for that will be even greater next season if Mercedes come out the blocks and have cured themselves of their aerodynamic headache. So it'll be interesting to see if Lando either builds on this or he listens to pundits like us who go, well, he won it, but he shouldn't have, and goes, oh yeah, I was pretty rubbish and I was really lucky to have won it. It depends which Lando comes out the gates next season.
There's a good piece on the race, the race's latest podcast, where I think Ed Straw goes into a bit of a diatribe on this, a bit of a deep dive, talking about all champions are created equal, but some are created more equal than others. Some want longevity. Some want to be around for one race or one season, even like Nico Rosberg did, and call it a day, right? And this is I don't know. F1 champions are like boxes of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get and how long they're going to hang around for.
So this is true, and like actually, I think we have to be careful that we don't smother some of the stuff that Lando did in criticism, because one of the things that is a trait of champion drivers is that they do push their team in the direction that they want the car to go. And it was actually impressive that even in a part of the season where he was the driver struggling, he was the driver behind, he managed to get McLaren to do something to his car that allowed him to get better. I mean, right before their little April or May cutoff, when they stopped developing the car, he managed to squeeze in that one little upgrade that kind of made his season. Like he wouldn't be in this position if he hadn't had that tweak to the front suspension that he got and that Oscar decided that he didn't need. And it's a glaring omission that Oscar didn't push the team when he was ahead to do the thing that he wanted them to do, or didn't have the nous to know that he needed it in the first place. So there are certain aspects about Lando's campaign that actually do demonstrate that he's understood what it takes, even if what we could see on a Sunday wasn't always as polished as what we've come to expect, certainly in the last few years.
It's interesting, that, Shez. It is interesting. Before we get to some player pairings or driver pairings.
What are we doing?
Let me just shout out Holy Stone for turning up yet again. Listen, mate. Which one of us is the loser? You're up here in the chat trying to spew maliciousness on this channel, mate. Time is a finite resource. Don't waste your time, chap, if you're not enjoying the channel. We talk about some driver ratings.
Let's do it.
Go on then. We've got T-minus 25 minutes or less. Do you want to go? In fact, as is customary, Shez, ladies first.
Very good. Oh wait, me. Okay, sure, fine. Franco Colapinto. Is that where we're starting?
Yeah, let's start with Colapinto, mate. Reverse squid order as per usual.
All right. I gave Franco a 4. Yeah, a 4. That's a below average for me, I think. Why did I do that? Franco started where? Last. Where did he finish? Last. And there's a little bit of Viri in that result. It's their last race in the back of any Formula One car of any description, isn't it? And neither car did particularly well. But Franco qualified 4/10 off of Pierre Gasly out the back of the grid. That's basically him on the end of a rope on a life belt. It was pretty bad.
Wow, a brilliant analogy, good sir. Well landed, well stuck. I've given Franco Colapinto a very generous 3.
Cool.
Because of a couple of different things. Again, out qualified by his teammate. You talked about the 4/10, which is chaos. One place, 4/10 in the same car. What are you doing, Franco Colapinto? Behave yourself. I barely remember 12 months prior when he was the next Ayrton Senna. He had the look and he was going to deliver, wasn't he? Where's that one gone? Not to mention the 2 track limit deletions in qualifying. What are we doing, chap? You know I'm partial. Well, I'm allergic to a cheeky error of the unforced variety. Colapinto, 3 out of 10. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Pierre Gasly, I mean, I think P19 is probably where that car should be, mate. I think it's probably where that car should be. And again, P19 in quali, there's nothing. He's out qualified his teammate. I've given him a very generous 6. Shez, tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I can't. 6 is what I'd give him as well.
Bosh, Liam Lawson, talk to me.
Oh, Liam. Liam for me is going to get a 7. He was only a couple of hundredths off of Hajar in quali, and ended up just behind him. Got overtaken a little bit too easily, but yeah, 7. That's what I'm going to give him.
I'm giving him a 4, chap.
Cool. I don't think that car was as good here as it has been. I think Isaac Hajar absolutely spanked it in qualifying, which is why he'll get a higher score.
Here's my problem, chap. How can I give you a higher mark if you're out in Q2 in a Racing Bulls and your teammate got into Q3? Go on, let me tell you. So out in Q2, nailed by rookie of the season yet again, your teammate looked a lot like who I believe him to be. That is the next Danny Rick, and not Danny Rick alongside Sebastian Vettel when he had all the tools to be a champion. Danny Rick post Red Bull. I just think he's a bit erratic, mate, per the bloody penalty for erratic driving. 4 out of 10. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. Isaac Hajar, chap.
Well, I have to give him more than 7 now, don't I?
Wow, unless you wish to be an F1 abbot of unreason.
Yeah, and I don't. Can I revise my Lawson score?
I don't. There are no take backs around here.
Scaling back down to a 5.
There are no take backs.
Because Hajar, I think. Yeah, I mean Hajar probably does deserve a 7, an 8. Go on, I'm going to give him an 8 because he did stick it. He did stick it in the top 10 when that car really shouldn't have. Really shouldn't be in the top 10 in qualifying. And is it completely his fault that it went backwards? It's not the greatest race performance ever. He was a lap down at the end, but what are you supposed to do in that Racing Bulls? Which is why I also can't mark Lawson down that harshly. They were barely. You could barely put a fag paper between them in qualifying, and that was a margin between Q2 and Q3.
If you are out in Q2, then don't expect to get a high rate. I'm sorry. I overweight quali. This is the problem.
Yeah. But both of us do. I agree. But you have to. But then the argument has to come down. I can't believe we're doing this. We said we wouldn't. But I know. But this is important, right? Because the argument then has to come down to: is it the position or is it the time? Because that difference. That separated them in Q2, that got one through and one not through, in another season might have had them both in Q3 or both out in Q2. And it's such a tiny gap. We're not talking a 10th, 2 tenths. We're talking hundredths of a second.
Shez, welcome to the party, sir. The house that is F1. We've been expecting you for some time. Do you know what I mean? A story told, not in tenths, but in hundreds and thousands. So
correct.
What do you want me to do? Listen, Isaac Hajar gets himself a cheeky 6 from me. Q3 props, tick. He's qualified ahead of Fluky Tsunoda, both of whom have made it into Q3. It's good that might stick out.
It's a shame you picked it up for his last race.
Nasty work. It's nasty work, but I've got to call him fluky because it's apropos as a signifier. So go on then. Hajar nailed Yuki in a quicker car, the parent member car or the parent team car. and so too we need his teammate who finished 30 or qualified 13th, excuse me. I think Isaac Hadjar finished where the car probably should have been, and not to mention I've got to accrue something for his season. I've given him a 6, probably should be a 7. Alex Albon, 3 out of 10, out in Q1, nailed by the smooth operator yet again. Where's he been? Has this dude's soul left his body? He was brilliant in the first half of the season, and he looks like the guy who got booted out of Red Bull in the second half, not being good enough, not for a while. Alex Albon, 3, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm going to give him a 4. For similar reasons, but I'm just being a bit nicer. I don't know where that early Williams form has gone. Other than I can only think that Carlos has started to tighten the screws and get everyone singing it to his tune at Williams over there. It's a shame, but I guess that's what it is for Albon. But the end of the season has been a recurring theme that looks a lot like this. So, yeah, 4.
Go on then. Kimi Antonelli, ladies first. 0 out of 10. Full stop.
What are you so mean?
Full stop, new paragraph. No, he's had a couple hard weeks as Kimi Antonelli, and you'd expect some empathy round these parts, but I have none. Qualified in 14th, finished in 15th in a Mercedes. When your teammate is in P5, you got destroyed by George. And again, if it weren't Kimi Antonelli, the next coming of Ayrton Senna, then I wouldn't mind so much. Oh, and by the way, some say that this chap in a previous iteration, mentioned no names, Austria, Brazil, potentially cost some chap the championship, having lost it by 2 points. But I digress. Ignore me. 0 out of 10, Kimi Antonelli. That's my story, and stick it in. Owen, where are you going? Who are you hugging after the race and apologising? Like, what actions, Kimi Antonelli, speak louder than words. So, yeah, man, nothing. 0 out of 10. Shez.
I'm not giving him 0. That's terrible. Give him 3.
You don't need to. You can be you can be UNICEF and the United Colours of Benetton if you want to, Shez, but I lack for empathy.
Are you saying UNICEF because he's 12?
I'm saying UNICEF because they're a philanthropic entity. That's why.
That looks after kids, right?
I have no idea how old Kimi Antonelli is, but I kept on hearing people saying, if you're good enough, then you're old enough, so I can't extend in empathy at the altar of immaturity. 0 out of 10. What's your number, Shez? I missed it.
3.
Far too high. Sonoda-san, fluky Sonoda, give me a number, Shez.
I'm going to give him a 5. 5 for finally dragging his butt into Q3. Again, that's twice, isn't it, in the last couple of Grand Prix weekends. He was in Q3 in the sprint last weekend, and up into 10th this weekend. I think, what did I say? 5. 5 seems reasonable, but then he threw it all away with a bit of nonsense on the straight. And the reason that annoys me so much is because we saw in 2021 just how good the second driver can be, right? And it was salt on the wound with Checo on social media going, yeah, I probably would have done that a lot better. 5, and mainly all of that because he put the car in Q3.
Fluky Sonoda gets himself a 3 out of 10 for me, on a couple different counts. Track limit fluke, exactly what he benefited from in qualifying to getting through to Q2, Q1, Q3 even, was what he fell foul of in the race, right? The fact that
I thought they said it wasn't.
But that it wasn't, that's what I'm saying. So he benefited. I think it probably should have been some sort. It was close enough, mate. I think he should have got track limits, to be fair. I think we
should put his mark up even higher for getting that one in.
I think that
that's where the track limit is.
I think the FIA have been doing one of these all race weekend long, mate. Sandra Bullock in Bird Box. I think like, what are we doing here? And then the defence of Lando was some say it was a decent defence. I think it was a gone with the wind type defence, especially when compared unfavourably with what Checo did so brilliantly to Lewis in 2021. Quick enough to be dangerous, and Sonoda-san was not quick enough to be dangerous or threatening or even impact the 2025 championship any whatsoever. Gabriel Bortoletto, Shez, speak to me.
I've given him a 7. Look, the reason for the 7 is he stuck that Sauber in P8, was it?
Hang on.
P7. Look at that. There you go. Shez needs to do his homework. P7. And then
Hang on. Sorry, I've missed out science, haven't I?
Oh, yeah, we can
go
back.
on. Continue Bortoletto, and we'll go back to science.
No take backs.
No.
It's all right. We can do science.
No. Go Karen.
Okay. So he stuck it in. He stuck it in 7th on the grid when his teammate ended up out in Q1. So that's good. And then I think his race, he did get out. Resulted. I'm going to say out race. He did end up behind Nico Hulkenberg, but from what I understand, there was a little bit of a car issue, and if he hadn't had that car issue, he probably would have done better in the traffic. He would have finished up closer to where he started, and for that reason, I'll give him a 7.
Concur, sir. 7 also. Q3, bro, is what I've put down. In that Sauber stake kick F1 soon to be Audi. I don't know, hate it, mate. If you get through to Q3 in 7th, that's no fluke. And again, he's bounced back, hasn't he, Gabriel Bortoletto, from being a yeet into the barrier merchant for the past 2 or 3 Grand Prix. J. Martin, you're a legend. Is Lando here to stay now that he's the WDC? Mate, that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, that's the question we're asking, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know. Who's he going to be?
My gut instinct tells me that Lando is more Damon than Michael. But you know what, mate? He's already made a mug of me this race weekend. I didn't think he had it in him to execute under the most pressurised circumstances in the dying embers of a championship. Go on then, Carlos Sainz, hit me. Shez. In fact, I'll go first because you've gone first for the last 10. I've given Carlos Sainz a 7. Super close to Q3, props, but ultimately no cigar and a story told intense, and that's what matters, right? But I've given him a 7 because yet again he's put H2 Alex Albon, C-level Alex Albon to the sword, and I don't hate that. I'm giving Carlos Sainz a very biased 7 out of 10. Talk to me, Shez.
Yeah, 7 sounds good. He's above average. It was a decent qualifying. I think that was about as good as that Williams was going to get. And I think he raced it to roughly where it should have been as well.
Bosh, take it. With a view to get ourselves back on track here, time wise, I'm going to need two words, numbers each, for Hulkenberg in 10th and Behrman in 9th.
Hulkenberg gets a 5 just because he qualified so far off his teammate.
Do you know when? Excuse me. Do you know when people don't read or listen to the exam question?
What did you say?
Two words. 2 words. 1 number for Hulkenberg, 1 number for Ali Behrman.
Oh, sorry. Okay. 5 and 5.
Okay, we're given 5. I concur. I will do Hulkenberg 6, and I will give Behrman a 5. Right, Lewis Hamilton. He's going first on this.
We're not doing Lance Stroll then.
I mean, just give me a number, chap. What's the point?
3. Go on.
I've given him a 4.
Look at that.
Just penalties, scrappy, same old. In another news,
and the same qualifying nonsense.
In other news, water is still wet. Talk to me about Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton, 7-time champion, Mount Rushmore of F1 first round Hall of Fame.
Why would you introduce him like that?
We just speak facts on this channel.
Yeah. All right, I've given him 7. But you'll hopefully understand why as we go forwards. But the 7 was he drops 3 marks, 4 marks even maybe for his qualifying, all in sector 3. He just made a mistake into turn 12, and it kind of just all got away from him, and it's disappointing because that's actually the sector that he's normally really good at. It's a shame. But then he did drive a good recovery. And he gained a few of those marks back, but then he loses another one for not getting past Ocon. So 7.
Well, he did get past Ocon, but Ocon nailed him back, didn't he? I've given Sir
Yeah,
Lewis.
come on. How does that count?
No. Ultimately, he didn't stick to this, man. I'm just adding some flavour to your narrative. The whole truth and nothing but the truth, Shez. I want to give Sir Lewis Hamilton a 7 or something, but I can't. I've written down 6, if only because he was out in Q1 again. I don't like it, Joe. I really
Who does?
I can't get over that.
But it's that time versus position thing again, because actually the difference was 2/10. There's hardly anything.
And I said to you, I'm overweight. I'm overweight time.
Position over time is what you're saying.
Oh no,
right?
sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I'm overweight position versus time, and overweight time in quali versus whatever happened in the race. Decent recovery drive, but ultimately you're an F1 driver, right? Speed is currency. But I digress. Esteban Ocon, I've given that chap an 8. I've just written down Q3, bro. Dubbed over Lewis Hamilton, slayed for the Ollie Behrman Dragon, stealthily good drive. Talk to me, chap.
Yeah, 8. And I thought his as you say, down the second DRS zone to take back that position again off of Lewis, who had a point to prove, was pretty special.
Don't hate it. Fernando Alonso, talk to me.
He gets a 9.
Oof. Don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Yeah. I especially enjoyed the fact that he, I mean, first of all, his qualifying was exemplary, but then he pulled a Carlos Sainz in the race, as usual, pulling the Alonso train. But he was, if you saw that assault that Lewis Hamilton was putting on everyone he was overtaking had no DRS until they got to Esteban Ocon. And why did Esteban Ocon have DRS? Because Alonso gave it to him, and he kept giving it to him for 3 or 4 laps until Ocon had nothing left and Alonso could just leave him. And suddenly he was 3 seconds up the road, and it didn't matter whether Lewis Hamilton overtook Ocon or not. I thought that was peerless. That was really clever racing. That gets a 9 from me.
And some say that F1 is a young man's game, right? Fernando Alonso, 578 years old, out here looking like he's 25. It's techie. People in the chat crying out for Baxter. Don't worry. Baxter will be back with a vengeance on Thursday. And it will get techier than techie things as Sir Baxter goes on his victory tour. I'm going to have to defend the honour of Maximilian Verstappen here. That will happen on Thursday. George Russell, I've given him a 6. Setup was a bit dodgy, but his start was even dodgy. And by the way, that happened on the clean side. I've written down George. You know what? Sat that off. Let me correct myself. I've given him a 5 out of 10, not a 6. Written down 6, but that's incorrect. Start was even dodgier than the setup. You'd be forgiven for thinking of King George Russell of Kings Lynn, Norfolk, that he had his money on Lando Norris for the World Drivers' Championship, contrary, by the way, to all his big talk pre-race, post-qualifying, that he was going to treat this like any other race and that he wanted 25 points. How very dare you? So King George Russell pushed hard, too hard in qualifying as well. I'd expect better from the chap from Kings Lynn, Norfolk. What do you got?
Take your tinfoil hat off, man.
I'm just truth and facts, nothing but.
Truth and facts. That's what all conspiracy theorists say. 6.
You want the truth, Shez. You can't handle the truth, Shez. 6. Look at that. 6 out of 10. Ironic that after he came for me and we end up on the same score. Charles Leclerc.
You gave him a 5.
I know I did. I rounded down in the end. I've got 6 written down then, and as I started talking, I realised that I'd been far too kind and generous. I mean, just am I Santa Claus or something? No, I'm not. Give the proper scores. 5 out of 10. Charles Leclerc, talk to me, Joe.
10.
True. Why?
He gets a straight 10. To put that car in Q3, you know, like, did you watch his lap? It was ridiculous. Like there was. I was like, how is this car even going straight in a straight line? It was awful, and I thought, okay, fine, he's done some kind of miracle, getting it into P5 in the end, wasn't it, on the grid? But it's going to fall away in the race, and then he just didn't. He was the only person, the only driver that was putting the result in any kind of jeopardy. So I really enjoyed that. And the icing on the cake is Max afterwards also commented on Leclerc's drive, saying it was he was driving his heart out. So if it's good enough for Max, it's good enough for me.
Reminiscent of Fernando Alonso in '05 and '06, some sort of ball matador behind, like his levels. And I don't even like Charles Leclerc, apparently. Modern day Jean Alesi. He was not that this race weekend, though. He was legendary in a dog of a car. That's a stealthy good drive. And again, not just the P5, but to keep Lando honest in an MCL 3.9 that ostensibly, by all accounts, the quickest car on the grid. That's to be celebrated. Bravo, Charles Leclerc. A coming of age of a drive, some might say. Stealthily good. I too have given him a 10. Lando and Norris, the business end. Shez, championship rounds. Are we going ladies first?
I'm confused about who is the lady in this conversation.
So, well, it depends, doesn't it? It depends. Sometimes I'll say lady and then go. I mean, you got to...
All right, fine. I'll go. Whatever.
As aforementioned, ladies first.
I'll give him a 9. The 9 being that he stuck the car on the front row of the grid. He didn't make it so obvious that he was letting Oscar Piastri through that we thought he was letting him through, which I thought was interesting. And then when his team dropped him into a heap of traffic, he just went, fine, doesn't matter. And I think that's the most... It's the most decisive I've seen him wheel to wheel. Did he take Stroll and Lawson on in one move? I know Charles Leclerc did the same thing when he was coming through the traffic as well. But you know, 2 cars in one corner. I don't think you could ever really say that was a bad drive. And ultimately, he did what he needed to do. So it's a 9. Yeah, 9 from me.
A begrudging 5. No, I couldn't give him a 5. It was a good drive. It was a good drive. I've given him a 9 also. I think he's on the fringe between an 8 and a 9 for a couple of different reasons. 8 because I feel like he was measured more than blitzkrieg quick in the race. But again, he had one job, right? Put it on the podium, and he did it. Sometimes the task isn't to be Ayrton Senna at Monaco in '88. Sometimes the task is to manage for some risk and get the job done. Ultimately here, Lando had to finish on the podium, and he did just that. Held off Leclerc, some cheeky overtakes, make sure he didn't yeet it into the barrier, notwithstanding fluky Tsunoda's best efforts. And then over the course of the season, I've got to give him his... I have to give him his flowers. I've challenged him and said that he didn't have the mental fortitude requisite to become a World Drivers' Champion, that he wouldn't have the ability like Simon Barnes in The Meaning of Sport to bring out of himself the best in the times where it matters most. And he kind of has. He was astounding in Mexico. I don't know, I'm broadening it. We're meant to be rating or driver pairing the race, of course. But no, he did what he needed to do, got over his mental foibles. Try as he might sometimes to seize defeat from the jaws of victory, Lando Norris entered the fray, stayed right, and managed not to. Podiumed, that's all that he needed to do. I've got to give him a 9. He wasn't too bad, Lando Norris 2.0, that fella. Oscar Piastri.
Surely it's your turn.
No, it's... No, I'm joking. Oscar... I've given Oscar Piastri an... you know, when you read it back, so on my Excel spreadsheet is the number 8, and when I read it back, I'm thinking that I might have been a tad generous. If only, again, if I'm overweight qualifying performance, he never... Okay, so ultimately he's only 3 100ths off of Lando Norris's time in Q3, but I never for a second... There was a stealthy set to 3 in there, and I remember we were arguing back and forth in the chat about whether Oscar Piastri's style lends itself to brilliant sector 3. Listen, if there are low minimum speed corners in there, then I expect Lando Norris to blitzkrieg Oscar Piastri. Oscar never looked like he was going to out-qualify Lando. Lando's lap in Q3 wasn't even it didn't feel like it was even 10 tenths. Already in quali, Lando seemed like he was playing defence, and I would expect therefore Oscar Piastri, notwithstanding the unfavourable circumstance that is the Yas Marina track, to out-qualify then Lando Norris. He did not. And that's why I think I've given him, I'll stick with an 8. 14 points shy ultimately in the championship. Cheeky love tap in Singapore, Monza. I know I'm broadening it out. This is me giving season ratings more than Abu Dhabi ratings. But cheeky love tap, he was ultimately, as far as the driver championship, a cheeky love tap in Singapore, Monza inversion, 5.9 second pit stop, and a Nazi gravel trap away from being a champion. Maybe then I'm being harsh with the 8, but that's my story.
We're forgetting about Qatar, are we?
I mean, also, and Kota, but that was his fault. At 8, it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Shez, hit me.
I gave him a 9. I know why you're being so mean to him.
And I don't know why you... Well, I do know why you're being so kind, because you're an Oscar Piastri stan. Get a room, Shazina. What are we doing here, mate?
I would.
You're too kind. You're Oscar Piastri is to you as Max Verstappen is to me. That's the level of love that you hold in your heart for OJP, isn't it?
No, not quite the same as I do for Max Verstappen, unfortunately. Not today. But I think that was a, he did purple sector 3. The sector that we thought he wouldn't be able to. I think there was probably a bit more juice in that. Certainly turns 13 and 14. He probably, if he had the rotation that a Max or a Lando had, he probably would have got a bit more out of it. But his race was exemplary, I thought. He was put on the hard, but he got a good start. He got past his teammate, plan executed, put pressure on Max, and then he faded in the end, but was still catching Max at the end on the unfavoured medium tyres. I think he did everything he could short of winning the race for his title bid, and ultimately I think he lost this championship earlier rounds, not here.
Touche.
9.
Touche. Maximilian Verstappen, ladies first.
I'm still confused. 10. He gets a 10. I mean, Wales, man, like he lopped downforce off his car in qualifying at a track that is high downforce.
Insane.
Like, what is going on here? And then in the race, just thoroughly controlled it. Like, what was like? I know I've just done saying that Oscar, made a good job of catching him in the final stint of the race, but like Max was doing things on a really old crappy set of hards that I felt like Oscar didn't even know could be done. It was like that. So yeah, I mean, the only thing that could have been better was something that Red Bull could have done, and there's still like a little bit of me that wonders what could have happened if they had pitted him a lap or two while he was still within the pit window for Oscar. Was that too risky? Maybe, but also, what's the point of not risking something when you're not going to get anything if you stay where you are anyway? I don't know. But that's not really anything I can blame him for. And I was, I know this isn't performance related, but I thought his radio at the end on the cooling down lap was really big of him. Really big of him to say that, and it reflected his season appropriately, I thought. So 10 for me.
That's daddy maturity, that is. Tell me you're a new father without telling me that you're a new father. No, I too have given Max Verstappen a D1 level Max Glaze 10 out of 10. I don't know what I have no words. Shez, I don't know what else you want for me to do. The word that I've written down here is dominant, never in doubt. And again, I just don't think that car was the quickest, definitely not in qualifying. But again, he goes and puts in a 122.207. Of course, what else would you expect from Max Verstappen at this point? Nailed qualifying, nailed the race, and again I've written, showed a maturity and was magnanimous in defeat in a way that not too many, that brings GP et al to tears, and shows. I mean, he's adding things, isn't he? But the daily, again, he's going to get upset about the Barcelona question. But what else would you expect?
But Cameron, can I just say, just before we do sign off, and I know we're running over time for my benefit more than anything else, but what I really enjoyed was how happy he seemed to be for Lando at the end. That tells me two things. One, that he can appreciate that he's done the best job that he can, and still be happy for his mate. But a second is that he knows, like, he wouldn't be that happy if he was somehow worried that Lando had outperformed him to a title, and he seemed very, very comfortable in his own skin that the best driver of 2025 did not win the world championship, and that is why he had the demeanor I thought he had. I don't think it had anything to do with him being a parent. I think he was just, if that had been Charles Leclerc that had won the title, or George Russell that had won the title, I don't think the demeanor would have been the same.
Oh, the humanity, Shez. I think you've said something there. And on that bombshell, we will call it a day. Shezino, you've been an absolute legend. If you like, enjoy, approve of Shezino's God tier level, market leading purple sector F1 insight and storytelling and analysis, then get over to Tired GP on the YouTubes. It's not bad, that channel, mate. It's not bad.
Thanks, man.
It's not bad. I'll get into your dirty air one of these days in a not too distant future. You guys watch.
Only to lap me.
Well, I don't know about that. Maybe in my dreams. You guys have been legends watching and listening. Do me a favour. If you're on the YouTubes, like, comment and subscribe. You know the dealio already. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.